All right, I want to welcome everyone this morning to preparing for the IC&RC Prevention Certification Exam, Essential Test Taking Strategies with Nicole Augustine. This presentation was prepared for the Great Lakes PTTC under a cooperative agreement from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, or SAMHSA. The opinions expressed in this webinar are the views of the speakers and do not reflect the official position of the Department of Health and Human Services. The PTTC believes words matter and uses affirming language in all activities. I want to share a few housekeeping items with you. If you have technical issues, please individually message me, Rebecca Buller, in the chat section at the bottom of your screen, and I will be happy to assist you. If captions or live transcript would be helpful, please use your Zoom toolbar near the bottom of your screen and choose live transcript. AI note taker options, please do not activate an AI note taker application. We do not allow this for several reasons, and we will ask you to disengage. If you do not, we will remove you from the Zoom room. If you have questions for our speaker, please put those in the Q&A section also at the bottom of your screen. This helps us not lose your questions in the chat as it scrolls by. So please use that Q&A section. You will be directed to a short survey link at the completion of the webinar, and we would really appreciate it if you could fill it out. It takes about 3 minutes. It helps us improve our offerings, and it also helps us report to our funders. And finally, certificates of attendance will be sent out via email to all who attended this webinar in full, and it can take up to 2 weeks for those to arrive in your email. If you'd like to know more about what we're doing or information on upcoming events, please see our social media pages. And now I'm going to turn things over to Nicole.
Okay, hello. Good morning, everyone. I hope you all are doing well. I am really excited about our time together. I was looking at the chat. Thank you all for being so communicative. I'm even seeing some Zoom hearts out there. I love it. I am happy to be here, excited about our time together. Okay, I thought I saw a hand raised real quick. Folks are getting excited. You might have been trying to do the hello reaction and raised your hand instead. So let us get started. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. I will formally introduce myself here shortly as a part of our presentation today. But before we get started, I want to just set the stage for our time together. Many of you are here, know me, have been to a session with me before, specifically a session here with Great Lakes. And we introduced this concept of brave agreements, and I want to honor that here today too. And so I just will read these brave agreements here that we will all agree upon. As we're doing this, feel free to use your thumbs up reactions with Zoom. That'll be fine to say, I'm agreeing to show up in the space in this way. So here we go. I agree that my gifts bring value to this space, and I receive the gifts this space offers me. I agree to be playful if my spirit allows, and I agree to do this with energetic consent. Use the chats, use the reactions, be present today. I agree to honor different people's communication styles to the best of my abilities. And I agree to step up and step back in the conversations in the chat. And you all will have an opportunity to use Mentimeter today too. So let's get started. If you've been here before with me, you know I love Mentimeter. So 2 ways you can do this. Grab your phone. You can open up the camera on your phone and simply show that QR code to your camera. Okay, that's one way to do it. It's going to open up Mentimeter on your phone. You'll be able to interact with all of our engagements that we have throughout our time together. Now, if you prefer to use a window on your computer, you can simply type in menti.com and the code that you're seeing there, that's going to drop you into there also. Wonderful. I'm seeing the thumbs up. People are letting me know you got in. Wonderful. Look at that. All the thumbs up are coming in. Perfect. Great. If for any reason you get out of this, don't worry. We will mention it more than once throughout our time together. Okay. So let's test out to see how many of you got in, right? First, I'm going to do a word cloud. Who is here today? You have 3 adjectives you can put in. You can describe yourself socially, personally, culturally, professionally, whatever you desire. And this will let me know how many folks were able to get into the Mentimeter. Okay. All right. So we got them coming in. We got at least one person in already. Good. Look at that. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Look at this. All right. I was going to say, I know prevention specialists might pop up at some point here. If anyone is just joining us in the room, you can join us by going to menti.com to get you here into, I'll put the code up here again so folks can see it. Look at our word cloud. Wow. The cool thing about word clouds, you all, is that we're all submitting our own words, and yet the ones that get bigger are the ones that are repeated, which is quite fascinating to think about. So we got a lot of moms in the room, a lot of prevention specialists, a lot of happy people. I like that one. But other words I'm seeing: passionate, supportive. We got pets, lovers of pets in the room, caregivers in the room, athletic people in the room, friends, grandparents. What a beautiful word cloud. Wow, look at that. 288 responses, 300 responses, you all. Thank you all for being so engaged in this. This is just to get you warmed up. We will be having Mentimeter sprinkled out throughout the session, okay? So you don't want to ever have your phone too far away because we'll be coming back to it. And if it's easier for you, it'll actually show you the slides along the way if that is another way for you to engage with the content. So thank you. When our session's over, just a sidebar so you all know this, I will download the Mentimeter version of the presentation and pass back to Chris and her team. And it'll actually have all of our Mentimeter parts in it so you can see it and look at it. Wow, look at this. Incredible. Thank you all for your responses here. So I have 4 things I want to accomplish in our time together. I want to start us off by really thinking about what are the strategies you're needing to prepare. I imagine the reason you came on to this webinar is because you're interested in being certified and you want to know what is the process to get ready for the exam. I saw in the chat someone mentioned earlier they are reading the book. Someone said they're even taking the test next week, so congratulations to you. I want to spend a little bit of time talking about, once you've prepared for the test, what are some strategies to think about while you're sitting inside that testing space? And then we'll spend some time having a little fun today. I have put together a Mentimeter quiz game, okay? So we're going to spend a good amount of time walking through some test questions. We'll do it game style. And at the end, we'll have an anonymous leaderboard. You'll get to see how many points you earned from the game. So it should be fun to get prepared for that. And then we'll close out our session really thinking about what are some of the resources that we'll be providing you all from here as folks are getting ready to prepare for testing. Okay, we'll offer a little time, hopefully at the end, for questions. As was remembered, please use the Q&A portion. That way we keep track of it versus having to hunt for questions in the chat. And if we have time, we can allow for maybe the mic to be open towards the end of the session to get any additional questions too. Okay. All right, here we go. Let's get started with our first objective of really thinking about, I know I want to become certified. I know I've got to take a test. What are the most effective things to help me prepare for this test and taking on a multiple choice exam? So let's go back into Menti. I got a poll here for you. You should see on your Menti, if you still got your phone near you, a new question has popped up here. I want to think about and poll from you all, what are some of your biggest challenges you're experiencing as you've decided to take this exam? Where does your anxiety rest for you? what gets in the way. Maybe you've been thinking about testing for a while and still haven't done it. And these are some of the reasons I came up with. And I was just going to be a little bit curious here to see where people are. Look at that. Okay, very interesting. So the top two choices here is some people having some general overall anxiety around how do I choose the best answer, right, on a multiple choice exam. With our second place right now being, I'm busy. I don't even know when I'm going to study, right? Which is a really, really valid concern to have. And then we've got the other two trailing behind here. So very, very interesting. My hope today is that some of the conversation we have, some of the tips you all leave with will assist you, help you with that anxieties around what to do specifically for multiple choice exams, because quite a few of you are mentioning that anxiety specifically. So I want to take a minute here to introduce myself. As to one, why I'm the person here doing the session today. I don't know how many of you in the room know me, how many of you, this is your first time meeting me. But my journey to become certified started in 2012. And at the time, I had recently graduated from grad school with my master's in public health. And I had decided I was going to do the CHES certification, which you're seeing here, MCHES, which is Master Certified Health Education Specialist. So for me, at the same time, I'm looking at these two exams, learning about prevention, already knowing about the public health certification. And I started studying for both at the same time. Now, my experience was that I found it way easier to study for CHES and the MCHES exam and resources for it. So much so that I ended up studying, passing, and getting that certification before I was able to get the one for prevention. Because the biggest struggle I had in 2012, and I'll be surprised how different it is now, my biggest struggle was finding what to study, where to begin. If I looked up MCAT, GRE, LSAT, SAT, ACT, boom, 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 everywhere, what to study, books, advice. But when I looked up the CPS, it was really meager. So at the particular agency that I was at, there was a group of 6 of us. None of us had been certified before, and we decided to build our own study group. We started interviewing other people who we knew who were already in the field who weren't yet certified. We wondered why. One of the biggest things we found at the time is that people had attempted to take the test and didn't pass. And so this group, we decided to do a study group. And what was interesting is I personally have always been a person who loves teaching. It's personally how I learn. I held study groups in college. I was that kid in the library hosting office hours for people, okay? Because it's how I learned information. Well, in this particular group, we really took the time to kind of think about what do we need to learn? What do we need to understand? And it was from this work, we all ended up passing the exam together, that in 2014, I decided to take the advice from my colleagues and start to document what I had done to study, how I had learned, how I had even instructed this group of folks to learn. And that's what gave birth, really, you all, to where we're here today, 10 years later, if you think about it. Because I'm 2014 doesn't feel like 10 years ago, but it is. Where is time going? So for me, I began documenting how to study because when I tried to study, I didn't have a lot of guidance, you know? I will say one of the things that came up for me here and being in this moment is a dash surreal, because one of the books I did grab that helped me tremendously was, I think of it as our textbook in prevention. It's dated now, but it was such a wonderful book for me. And right here on the call, Chris Gabrielson is one of the co-authors of that book. And some of you may know that book also. So it's like cool to be sitting in the room here from that perspective too. Because back in 2014, Chris Gabrielson's name was just an author on a book to me, right? It's just amazing how the world comes around. So I share this background with you all because I come to you today from my lived experience of not really finding much resources to building my own, and then kind of serendipitously finding a publisher to help me put it all together into a book. The topics and the strategies we're going to talk about today are from what I've experienced and from what I've lived. And so I hope that you all find the information, the content helpful to you as you begin your journey. I get a lot of feedback from people that the approach works, and so I do hope that it'd be the same for you. So here are the strategies that I recommend as you have decided, you know what, I'm going to take this test. The first thing I think is to get a study group together. Even if the group just becomes a group of accountability where you are saying, okay, I'm going to read once a week, or I'm going to schedule my exam in 3 months or before the end of 2024, right? This group can really help develop accountability. They can also be wonderful for setting a schedule for how often you get it done. One of the reasons that you all mentioned, the top second reason in the room was, when am I going to study? Finding the time. The development of a study group and planning helps that happen, right? And I have a firm belief system that 2 brains are better than 1. So you can study by yourself, but it's even more powerful to have some people to kind of think through some things around. The second thing I found really beneficial is identifying a mentor. Now, something I had to do really early on is recognize that sometimes my mentors weren't going to be people who are certified themselves. And you may find yourself in the exact same situation. It doesn't mean that your mentor isn't able and capable of providing you mentorship. It's important to remember that our prevention certification is still relatively new. And there are a lot of people in our field who practice prevention and don't have it, very successfully, and don't have it. So it's always important to really have someone who's further ahead than you, so you kind of know where to go and reach towards. And when there are times and spaces where you may not understand something, a mentor is really, really amazing for helping you understand key concepts. Another key strategy as you're preparing is there are plenty of practice. Let me back up from saying plenty. There are practice tests out there that exist, okay? And one of the things that can give people anxiety in a test is when a test is timed. So when you're practicing at home, actually time yourself. Don't make it stressful. Just open up a timer on your phone or on your laptop, set it over to the side, and then just see, how long does it take me to move through 10 questions? Okay. This will help you get a sense of your pacing, because sometimes where people get stressed is the anxiety of the environment and the situation. So begin to time yourself so you understand what it feels like to be timed. You also have a good sense of what your reading pace is like. This will help you determine whether or not there are any skills you need to develop. Do you need to develop any speed reading skills, right? Are you noticing that you read too fast and maybe you're skipping some key concepts? Taking that opportunity to do that as a part of your practice is a really amazing way to set the stage for preparing for the actual day of the test, okay? As you do this, one of the things I found powerful, especially with the practice test, is really dissecting each question. Taking a moment to think about, did I guess here and happen to get it right? Or did I know I was right? And looking at the other responses, really being able to articulate why an answer is wrong. Because one of the things I found in taking the exam is that the exam is really about the application of key concepts in prevention too. And so being able to understand why an answer is not the right answer I think is really helpful in general for passing the exam. A key thing to think about is knowing yourself. Everyone has different learning styles. And so, if you're unsure about what your learning style is, take some time to discover it. Are you someone who learns by writing, by teaching, by listening, by reading, okay, by discussing concepts? When you really have a great sense of your learning style, do you need flashcards, right? Do you need someone to quiz you? You can then incorporate your learning style into your learning schedule and your learning plan, right? This really helps you diversify how you're getting the knowledge into your head and then keeping it. For me, what I found really beneficial is as I start to study, I start to really think about, and it goes into this next one here, is how does this content apply to my job? Because one of the biggest disconnects I had, you all, was being hired to learn a curriculum, teach at a school or teach at a parenting group. And often that was the extent of my prevention training, is learning a curriculum and teaching it. Yet the test is way broader than that one particular skill. Okay. So I had to also take a moment to think about, even if I'm not doing this particular task, how does this content relate overall to what the prevention science field is? To help me critically evaluate the job that I was currently doing. Sometimes it helped me see opportunities to do something better. Because again, remember, some of us are supervised by people who are not in prevention, people who are not certified too, right? So sometimes even in your studying, you are training up, right? Because it may be the people around you, depending on the size of your organization, may not carry a knowledge either of the competencies connected to our work. So this was a part that was when I tell you all, for me, the studying for the exam was like a transformation of what I understood prevention to be. Because if I was just focused on what I was taught to do my job, it wasn't broad enough really to prepare for the exam itself. So I think that's something to kind of really think about and consider for what happens in our work sometimes. And then the last strategy I want to share here that I think it's important as you get ready to test is to recognize that IC&RC, your testing facilities, they do provide and allow for special accommodations. So again, this is connected back to an earlier one of your learning style, who you are, if you're someone who needs extra time or other sorts of special accommodations when test taking, be knowledgeable of that because you can get certain accommodations addressed for you. Okay, so this is objective one. I'm going to pause here just a moment. I feel like I've said a lot of stuff and I was seeing chat notifications. I don't know, Chris, is there anything we need to bring up here or any
Yeah,
questions we need to
you
talk
know, there are
about?
a couple questions, and feel free to answer them a little later. But one is, folks are wanting to know if there's an audiobook version of your study guide. I
Uh,
think you said that you were working on it. Is that correct?
I am. This is hilarious. So thank you. I love this question. There isn't yet. I will say this is something I'm working on. I did visit a podcasting studio just a couple months ago and started recording the first few chapters. So
Oh,
it's coming in the future, y'all.
in progress. All right.
I love
And
that.
then somebody else asked, I have been attending webinars and have some work experience in the past. Currently not directly working in prevention, and I do not have a supervisor or anyone that is in the field. Can I still take the test?
Ooh, probably not. Probably not. So when you register to take the process of registering to take the exam actually requires you to submit documentation of your training experience, your supervision experience. That's a requirement. So you will need to identify someone who can sign off on your prevention work in order for you even to be eligible to take the exam. Yeah.
Yeah, and I definitely, for those who haven't explored it yet, I would make sure to go to your prevention certification board for your state and find out what the requirements are for your state. And I'll put in the chat once we get going again, I'll put a link to a map of the US where you can click to find out which certification board you have for your state. So I'll do that. And then let's see, a couple more questions. One person says, will this information help me for the state of Iowa prevention exam? No, it's for
Yes.
every state. So every
Every
state uses
state,
the
yeah, it's
same
true.
exam,
It's
right?
one exam. That's the beautiful thing. It is one
Yeah.
exam.
And then what are some places to find where we can find a practice exam? I think you're going to talk about that a little later. Is that
Mhm,
right?
mhm. That's right.
So Lillian, if we don't answer your question later, ask it again, but that will be answered. And then one other person, I don't know if you want to tackle this later, or she says, or they say, I'm struggling how to decide between MCHES, IC&RC, and PS, figuring out the best fit. So with somebody who is a certified prevention specialist
Yeah.
as well as the MCHES, do you have any thoughts about that, or do you want to talk about that later?
I'm happy to share that. Yes. So I took both of them. For me, I personally love certifications in education. So I took both and I like to take them like almost immediately after when I can. So I felt motivated to do it right after grad school. There are very different certifications for sure, and different reasoning. My impression is that MCHES and the CHES certifications have a much broader application. They're more used across the field of public health in general. And there are some places that actually have compensation connected to it. The prevention certification is still a newer one that's being more established. So for me, I decided it, even though it didn't have a financial bump or compensation connected point for my state, I still wanted it because I place value on the certification in general. And I believe we're going to have a future where it will be standard, and I don't want to have to retest. I'm already over 40. I don't want to have to
Oh, you're
retest
young.
later
You're
in
very
life.
young.
Okay. So I'm like, let me take it now while my brain is fresh.
Well, I just want to reiterate from the chat that although there are different certification boards in every state with different requirements, the prevention certification exam is through IC&RC, which is a national certification, or actually international certification. So the information that Nicole's sharing today does apply to all of those state certification boards prevention certification exam, because it's the same exam. So just wanted to make sure for folks out there that's clear. And the one other thing I want to point out is we have mentioned Nicole's study guide, and she mentioned my textbook, which was very nice of you, Nicole. It is old, as we said, that we wrote it quite a while ago, but luckily a lot of it's aged well. But those are things that you have to purchase, and we're going to be talking a lot about resources that you don't have to. So I know there's been a lot in the chat about those, and just know that there's a lot of things that you can be doing without accessing those books. Not to say that they aren't worth it, but there's lots of other things too. So just to say that.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Thank
All
you.
right, I think we have a few more things going in the Q&A, but let's go ahead. I want to make sure you have time to get through everything, so we'll come back once you get through this next section.
Okay, no problem. Thank you, Chris. I
Sure.
appreciate your support. Okay, so moving along here, I want to think about once you're in the exam situation, what are some things to think about? I know at least one person in the room is taking their test next week. Maybe there's some other you are taking a test here soon. So here's a Mentimeter poll. If you grab your phone, I'll make sure the code is up here too. Make sure you guys see this. Curious about anxiety during test taking. Okay. If folks can refer back to their Mentimeter, want to get a sense here. How are people doing during test taking experiences? And if you got logged out, I am showing the QR code here. And then at the very top of the screen in the center is the Mentimeter code in case you're using the website version. Okay. Okay, so we got a few Zen folks in the room. several people who say a little anxious, but you know what, I managed pretty good. And then some folks saying on the furthest end here, okay, this is good to know about oneself. Very good to know. Does this help you in your preparation, your planning? So a couple things to kind of know about what to expect on the day of the exam, just so people know that. Just to clarify, there is one exam that is put together internationally by IC&RC. So no matter where you are in the world, because there's boards all over, there's one exam that's built. It is computer-based. It's 3 hours long. There's a total of 150 questions on the exam. 25 of the questions are questions that they're pre-testing, where they're trying to figure out new test questions. Do they work? You won't know which one are these 25. So answer all of them to the best of your ability, all right? The exam is scored out of 800 points max, okay? You need 500 to pass. With it being computerized, the cool thing is that you'll know immediately if you've passed. I don't know if that helps you or gives people anxiety, but then you do officially receive the paperwork on your passing or not passing afterwards. Okay, so a couple things to kind of think about when you're there during testing. Some of you mentioned some anxiety. We have different levels of anxiety in the room. I want to just provide some tips in general that I think are beneficial when you're test taking. And the first one is really thinking about your breathing. I'm not sure how many folks here are familiar. Many of you have heard the term resiliency before. There is a curriculum called the Community Resiliency Model. And one of the key things they talk about is taking the time to recognize your own body, sensing what's happening, paying attention to your heart rate, your breathing rate, these sorts of things. You'd be surprised, just how often we don't think about our breathing. And so some of the things I tell people, the first thing you want to do when you get into the test taking space is just take a moment to ground yourself, to plant yourself firmly, to take some deep breaths, and really work on your mindset. Because I really firmly believe our mind is where the battle starts often. And taking the time to kind of really reassure yourself that I can figure this out. I've been doing this work for years. I've prepared myself. I've studied, right? I can do this. And really taking the moment to kind of set that stage is more important than some of us may think or believe. I don't know if any of you know anything about the brain, brain research with athletes. And interestingly, if you look at the brain wave of an athlete who is closing their eyes and visualizing themselves running, it looks the exact same as the brain wave of that same athlete running. And that's a powerful thing. So I say use and leverage that for this. Take some moments to really think about and see yourself successful, see yourself being able to make the right kind of logic of choosing the right question versus using your imagination around blanking out, or it's going to be so hard that I'm not going to know what to choose. Because unfortunately, that mindset won't help you out in this scenario. Other tips that you can do is really take your time with reading carefully, reading with intention. Again, when you're stressed, you'll be surprised, your eyes losing focus, impacting how you read and comprehend the questions in the time. I always found it helpful to really look at the multiple choice answers and remove stuff that was like, there's no way this is it for sure. And really picking between, if I found myself having to guess, picking between what's left and then choosing what I felt was the best possible answer of the answers that were there. For those of you who have taken multiple choice tests before, I didn't feel like this was the kind of test where it was more processing thinking, in that sometimes I found a couple answers that I thought were pretty good, which is why I said you really got to be looking at it, processing, thinking about it, and choosing what you feel is best. A strategy that I used, mainly because I'm just speaking from my experience. This is why I say it's best to know yourself and do what will work for you. but I really love the bookmark feature because for me, my approach was I need to see how much content in here and how much I know or don't know. So I went through the exam, and what I knew, I answered immediately. What I didn't know, I bookmarked and I moved on so that I could make my way through all the questions for sure, right? To know that I answered everything in terms of my timing and my pacing. And then I went back and spent more time on the questions I had bookmarked for ones that, I'm not quite sure. I need to think about this a little bit more. Okay. Because you don't want to get stuck early and then not finish the test because you've run out of time. That's the thing to kind of think about. In general, I say you want to just keep a consciousness of your time, which if you're doing the practice of timing yourself just to see how long it takes you to move through a certain number of questions, you'll, by the time you get to the 3 hours of the exam, you'll have a really good sense of what the time feels like and how your pace is going. That also will help to reduce your anxiety. Okay. So these are some of the things that I think are really helpful and beneficial when you're sitting in the testing space that can assist you in thinking clearly so that you can be able to choose the right answer in the exam. Okay. All right. So pause here a moment. Any questions, any thoughts on this space?
You know, there's a couple I know we're going to be getting to a little later, but one I'm wondering if you want to talk about is how do they score the test? How many questions can be missed?
Okay. So now that detail is very interesting. I'm not certain around how it's scored, actually. I just know you need 500 to pass. I don't know how that translates into of the 100, well, because technically 25 are not scored. So of the 125, how many can you pass and still be at the score of 500? I'm not sure of that math, actually.
I'll see if I can poke around while you're talking the next section, because I was thinking it was 70 or 80%. I'm wondering if somebody on here has recently taken the test and remembers, but I will go into the IC&RC exam and
Okay.
or
And if we
website and see
don't
if I can
find
find out.
it by the time we're done, we'll make sure we get that answer.
And we'll
Yeah.
send that in the follow-up email. Yep. Great.
Okay.
And then Stephanie asked, how do you bookmark the questions that you're not sure of? How does that work?
It'll be very obvious, an option to bookmark it, so that it'll be tagged, and then you'll be able to quickly see which questions you bookmarked
Great.
on the exam.
All right.
And these are features that will be easy to see when you're there.
Great. And somebody asked, are the tests given in a testing center or given us to do privately?
Oh, you do? They're proctored only, so
Yeah.
you will have to go to a testing center to take the exam.
Great. And then let's see. And there, in terms of some people are asking about resources of what to study and examples, and we will be providing a lot of that information for you all. So hang
Yeah.
tight. I know some people are posting in the chat too, but trust the process a little bit. We will get there, we promise. And we
Yeah.
also will send different links in the follow-up email as well. So
Yeah. Okay.
let's go ahead and invite you go ahead and move on.
Wonderful. Okay. So we are at the fun part. Okay. So this part of our objective is I wanted to kind of begin to think about some test questions, so hopefully everybody is still in Mentimeter, but I'm going to show it here again because we're actually going to be using Mentimeter for this next portion of the meeting. This is a quiz game that I created here. When in a moment, when I go to the next slide, you'll be automatically given or assigned a random profile or icon that will represent yourself in the game. Okay. This will be anonymous, so play and answer however way you feel. And towards the middle and the end, I'll reveal a leaderboard that lets us know how many points. As we go along through these, ones where there's question, we'll answer, we'll talk about as a group to make sure people understand. But I thought it might be nice to put some test questions in here. Okay. So here we go. All right. So if you're looking at your phone, you have been given a name and an icon. I'm actually not going to play. I'm just doing this to show you all, okay? This is who you are anonymously. All right. Okay. Oh, wow. Look at that. We got 143 people playing. This is going to be fun. Okay. This is going to be fun. All right. So I'm going to press start the quiz. Here's how it works. I have a total of 20 questions that we're going to walk through. You'll have 30 seconds to answer the question on your phone. All right. Once the votes are in, the correct answer will populate on the screen. All right. And then towards the end, you all will see how you scored across the 20 questions. All right, you got, let's be ready. Let's do this. This could be very interesting. Here we go. All right, question number 1. The votes are coming in. Look at that. Wow, a lot of people have voted. Wonderful. Okay, about 5 seconds left for those of you who are still voting. Okay, most of you got this one right. An overwhelming majority of folks got this right. Okay. Yes. Okay. So this is talking about community engagement, right? So this is an interesting example here of and as we're going through these 20 questions, you all will see that how questions are asked and how sometimes the answers can trip you up just a bit. In this particular one, we really want to bring people to the table who, guess what, are already interested, right? And then we leverage those folks to recruit more people to our work and to our initiatives. Okay, so first question, let's go to the second question. All right, everybody should be there. You'll see the option to join the quiz again. Let's go ahead and get our next question going. Here we go. Okay, look at that. Votes are coming in. 5 seconds remaining on this one. Let's see how we did. Okay, interesting. This one tripped people up a little bit. Now I'll tell you all something. You may be wondering where these questions came from. This first 10, I pulled them directly from the IC&RC Prevention Specialist Exam Guide, the candidate guide, okay? So this shows you the types of questions, right, that exist will be on the exam, just so we know here. So this is talking about our continuing education. Should be a mix of academic and experiential learning. I can totally see how community approaches will throw many of you off completely. And this is what I was talking about and granted, we're doing a 30-second crunch here because of time. You would have more time to look at it in more detail. But you could see how you could be deciding between those two choices and needing to make the one on the far right there. All right, next question. I think everybody is in and ready to join this quiz. Here we go. Okay, next question. All right, let's see here. Ashley. Yes, actually, I was looking at this one. This one is a mistake here. It is the first one, where most of the votes are. So I need to catch that. So I was just looking at this. I was like, oh. So sorry about that, you all. For those of you who did answer for the first one, assessing the level, that is the correct answer. The wrong answer got chosen on this one. I do apologize about that. So thank you. Most folks got this one right. Okay, question number 4. Here we go. Okay, about 5 seconds remaining on this one. Okay, fascinating. Look at the distribution of responses on this one. Okay. So with this particular one, research, innovation, training, and then the delivery of successful. Now, what's interesting is you all are probably noticing, and this is what I was talking about when I say studying, is if you notice some of these other words like information dissemination, alternative activities, your brain should be thinking, oh, those are examples of CSAP strategies, right? Referral to appropriate programs. Oh, that is a CSAP strategy, right? So when I'm looking at this, I'd be thinking, 3 of these are CSAP strategies. One of them isn't. What's going on here, right? This is a part, and this is why I love study groups, is because you begin to look at a question like this and really tear it apart, dissect it for a process of elimination of what the answer could be. In this particular instance, it is this one here where folks said the delivery of successful interventions. All right. Yes. Was there a question?
Yeah, people don't know what CSAP is.
Oh, thank you. Sorry. I appreciate that. No, thank you for that. So CSAP, Center for Substance Abuse Prevention, there are, and again, these will be topics to be studying. There are a set of 6 CSAP strategies. We've got prevention education, information dissemination, prevention education, alternative activities, right? Community-based processes. We've got referral, and we've got environmental strategies. So in that particular previous question, 3 of the responses were CSAP strategies. So again, this is where I like some of the studying can be very helpful for like really dissecting the questions. Okay, votes are coming in. Still strong. Wonderful. About 5 seconds left on this one. Let's see. Okay, quite a few of you got this one though. Yes, right? So our qualitative and quantitative data, okay? And you'll want to know what do those terms mean, right? When you look at them. Okay? Our needs assessment. Okay, let us move forward. Okay, question 6. All right, let's get it going here. And then I think we got a leaderboard check here soon. Okay, about 5 seconds left. There you go. And if you're looking at this thinking, what is social development strategy? I would make a note of the topic and put it on your study list. Okay. So providing opportunities to contribute social development, that strategy. All right. Okay, question number 7. And after this question, we got a leaderboard check. You all can see how you're doing on points. Some of y'all are real quick to respond, which is fantastic. Okay, coming to a close here. See how we did on this one. Awesome. Many of you got this one. Wonderful. Okay, so let's take a look at how we're doing on our scores. Here we go. Okay. Okay, Barefoot Contessa, Nia, Pingu. We got several here close together. All right, so we're entering to the second half, you all. You can see where your scores are. Hopefully you know who you are. All right, here we go. Let's take a look. Next question. This one is a little bit more thinking. Okay, let's see how we did on this one. Oh, indicated. Okay. Several of you thought it might have been selected. So that's something to think about, right? How do we best determine the difference between the two? Okay. Because they're close together, but they are a little bit different, right? And so again, if you're looking at this and maybe you missed this one, I'd be thinking, oh, I need to review the difference between selected and indicated so I can be able to clearly see those differences in a question that is a scenario kind of like this. All right. Okay, let's check out the next question. Y'all are doing well on these questions in general, though. So this is good. And you'll get a copy of the presentation, so you'll be able to, actually your handout has all the questions in there. So you'll be able to look at this again. Oh man, wow, okay, I didn't expect this. Fascinating. So this one is price. And actually this is one that is missed quite often, is understanding how we apply the 4 P's of marketing in prevention. I do see a hand about a palm. I'm not sure about the hand.
Levita, if you could put in the chat, the Q&A, your question, that would be great.
Yes, so you all, price in this instance, with how we use it, is the cost to our audience to do the behavior we're wanting them to do. So in our instance, we're asking a young person not to underage drink. So their potential cost is not fitting in with their peers because they're maybe considered not the cool kid. That's an example, okay? That's how we use price. Oftentimes in marketing, price is like, oh, it costs $5, right? In our instance, the price is articulated just a little bit differently. So very interesting question here. All right, so let's take a look here at the next question. I'm like rooting for a question where we get like 100%, everybody got it right. We still got some more questions here. I have faith in this group. I feel like at least one question, everybody's going to get right. Oh, this was close. This was almost it, y'all. This was almost it. The community coalition, yes, is the entity that helps to drive sustainable change in our communities. Okay, so let's check out this next question here. It says model of communication.
Nicole, there's a comment in the chat about for question 9, in the handout, the answer was C to the question. I'm wondering if you might go back, or is that something you want to follow up with in the follow-up email? We'll double check
I'd
that.
have to, you said in the actual, the handout
Yeah.
document. Okay, I'd have to look at it.
Okay, yeah, we'll double check that and send that out in the follow-up email.
Okay. Thank you for, I was like, if I can look up the document real quick, I could look at it and see. Okay, so for this one, you all, I'd be looking at this saying, if you don't know the process model of communication, then in my brain, I know I see a model when I see those words, right? That phrasing. Same thing should be happening for you, right? And then when you see the model, you'll be like, oh, you'll know almost immediately which label is not a part of the model. Okay. In this instance, it is participant. Okay. All right, let's take a look at the next question. And as you all do this, I just encourage you to, like, again, make note of maybe topics, you know, that you need to add to your study list. Okay, yes, yes, yes. So interesting. Many of you remembered, some people know CSAP 6, right? We mentioned that earlier. But another key model to know about is the Institute of Medicine, our 3 categories. And what are they? Universal, selected, and indicated. Okay. So again, just kind of remembering the difference between the two, whereas your CSAP 6 strategies, these are like, once you know who your audience is, how you will approach them. Will you do information dissemination? Will you do a prevention education course, right? Will you do an environmental strategy? That's what your CSAP 6 is, okay? So just being able to articulate those differences between the two, so you're able to, easily understand that, okay? All right, let's keep going here. Right? Indicated. Okay, very good. A lot of you got this one. Yes. Student assistance program, same as employee assistance programs. These are all in that space of indicated prevention work. Very good. Okay, all right. Next question. We're almost done here, you all. Just a few questions left. And we'll see how you all did as a group with your scores. Okay, logic model question. See how we do on this one? Good, 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 good. So yeah, some of these you can definitely tell we've got stronger collective knowledge on, right? Where you see some of the questions, quite a few of the people get it correct and get accurate. Okay. Look at our next question, focused on mobilizing community members. Be interesting to see if these votes get split here. See what you guys come up with. Okay, yeah, I was wondering if some of the votes were going to be split out under community readiness. I'm not surprised some folks chose that particular answer. Readiness is a little bit different, but coalition building definitely does most closely articulate what it means to mobilize a group of people. Readiness is a little bit different. Yeah. Let's see how you guys do on this next one. Be interesting. Let's see what you all think about this one. Okay, yes. So quite a few of you did choose the last one. Some of you were saying, oh, just invite folks to the next meeting. The good thing about choosing the very last one, you let those folks invite folks to the next meeting, right? So close, very, very close. All right, so just 3 questions left here for our game today. Okay, we got almost all the votes in. Let's see how we do on this one. Maybe this is our unanimous one. Okay, almost. I wasn't sure if all of the above was going to give it away, on this one. Okay. But yeah, you're doing all of that during your readiness process. Okay, 2 questions left, y'all. For me, the funnest part of this is just seeing how all the votes show up. It's like you never know. Okay, Okay, fabulous. Yes. We're looking for behavior change. What are the outcomes? That's the highest level of evaluation, right? That we're seeking. Okay, speaking of evaluation, we got another evaluation question for you. All right, let's see how we did on this one. Okay, great. Yes. Process evaluation. We're doing it throughout. Okay. Our last final question here, focused on culture. One last question. And then we'll see our leaderboard of where folks ended up. See if Barefoot is still in the lead. All right. Last seconds remaining. Here we go. Yes, working alongside. Okay, awesome. So let me show our leaderboard. Let's see how things ended up here. Okay, we had some moving around. Look at that. Wonderful. Okay. So our winner for today was Nia in our game on Mentimeter. So again, you all do have all of the questions in the workbook. We'll just confirm and make sure that the answer key is accurate there, being that I did find a mistake here in the Mentimeter side of things. So we'll check that to be sure for you all. Okay, awesome, great.
Do you have time for a couple questions, Nicole?
Yes, I do.
And I wanted to add in a couple things too, that we've been doing a prevention learning collaborative on the certification exam, or on prevention certification throughout this year. So we've had a lot of folks working on obtaining their prevention certification. And one of the feedback that we got was from the people who have taken the certification exam is a lot of the questions are scenario based. And I think you mentioned that, but I wanted to make sure that people understand that it's not going to be like the definition of something is. It's not a lot of that. It's more like embedded within that question. You need to know what the definition in order to answer a question about a scenario.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's very scenario based. So I just wanted to point that out. And the other thing that we found from the Learning Collaborative participants is that the IC&RC prevention practice test, which you do have to pay for, it's $49, but they found that it was very valuable and that the score they got on that was very similar to what they got on the exam. They took it at a close proximity of time. So if you're wanting to get an idea of what the exam is like, I highly recommend, if you're able, to take the practice exam. Also, they said that that was helpful because then they were able to see what the exam setup is like, how to do the bookmarking, how to do all those things, what it's going to look like. It was very reassuring for them to have that understanding before they went in to take the actual test. So if that's an option for you, I recommend that you do that. And I see somebody else said that it's helpful. Oh,
Mhm.
that they'll be taking the test. So when you buy the test, can you print it after for a study guide? No, you cannot. It's only online.
Yeah.
And then a couple other questions, Nicole, that have come in. One is there a way to check off choices you know aren't right on the exam? And I was trying to remember what I've heard. What
I don't think so, no. So my concept of like eliminate what you know, it's more mental
But
Give
I
it to
think
me.
you can have, they provide you with a piece of paper that you can use, so you
Yes.
can write things
Yes,
down.
that is
Okay.
true.
And then there was another question, what is the ideal time to study for this test? Is a month sufficient, 3 months, etc.? Any thoughts about that?
It's about personality. I don't like to feel rushed. So, like, if we're in September now and I wanted to test, I'd be giving myself a deadline of March personally. But that's because I don't like to be rushed on things. I take more time. But I mean, I know someone who, decided they wanted to take it. They were prepared already to take, they just hadn't tested yet. And they studied in a weekend and went and took the exam. That's not me. I would be like, there's no way.
But I think it's partly how much experience you have within the field. If you've been in the field for a long time and you've been absorbing all this information for many years, that's very different in terms of the amount of time you might want to give yourself to study versus somebody who's brand new to the field or newer to the field where you may have not been exposed to as much of this information. I think that the timeline would probably be longer for that person. Would you agree?
Yeah, yeah. And maybe a great way to determine is leverage the pretest. If you're okay with the $50 investment, do that so you can know your average score and then be like, oh man, I need a little bit of time to study or I need a whole lot of time to study.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. And the IC&RC practice test is through the IC&RC website. And with that resource document we're going to give you at the end that is referenced at the end of Nicole's handouts or her workbook, there's a link directly to that. So that's done not through your own state certification board, that's done directly through IC&RC. And then one other question, then I want you to keep moving on and make sure we have time for everything else. Somebody says, when taking the test, can you change your answer before the end of the time?
Yes, you can. The only time you can't change is after you've concluded it.
That's what I thought.
Finalize the
Okay.
test. Yeah. Otherwise, you can change your answers at any time as long as you
Okay.
still have it open. Yep.
Okay. Thanks.
Awesome. Okay. Okay. So let me just go back in here. This is great, you all. Wonderful questions. Okay. So our last objective for today is thinking about resources, right? Many of you are going to be testing soon. So we wanted to leave you all with some resources that we think would be really beneficial. So in the handout, these links are live. There is an exam prep page that IC&RC has that includes candidate guides, that includes study guides, free materials and resources that can help you study. I put a link to the book that I created. Feel free to check it out. There are folks in the room who've read it, who've used it. People have given me personal testimony. It's been really helpful. I wrote it more as a narrative concept of our prevention practice. So if you've ever studied for another exam and you've seen other study guides, this is not like that at all. This is more talking about our work in our field and who we are, and then applying it to the concepts you need to pass the test. We've provided you all with some internal resources specific to the PTTC. Again, access to online courses, resources lists, other test prep that we think could be very beneficial to you all. So if you don't already have the workbook, you'll get access to it so that you all can click on these links and begin to kind of look at some of the resources that are there for you all. Study-wise, I do have a couple Mentimeter questions that I want to pull up here as we're beginning to close. I do want to offer some time and space to answer some of the questions that have come up that we didn't get to yet. First, I just want to take a quick word cloud here of what's on people's minds, maybe 3 adjectives that's going through your mind right now, so we can create that word cloud. And then I have a couple other just process questions to kind of pull that'll be open-ended. And then we can begin, Chris, to field any questions that came out of the Q&A part. So we have time to get to those too. Study, right? That's the big word. Study, 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 pass, stress, overwhelmed. Oh, helpful. That's a good one. Someone had the nerve to say excited. Wow, look at that. Okay, I see not prepared. Yeah, diligent. Taking the time to prepare. Panic. Oh, stress. Yes, okay. Hey, good. I just wanted to get a sense of people's minds, where folks are, right? Um, okay. Word clouds are so cool. Okay, so and if I can say, because the words that I'm seeing here, words are powerful. Let us be sure we think about and consider what we're doing for our own self-care, right, throughout the process. Energy has to go somewhere. So if you are feeling stress, anxiety, overwhelm, yikes, right? Some of these other emotions, what are you doing with them for your own regulation, right? Excuse me. Okay. All right. Second question, and then I have one more question after this. Second question. What's one thing you could do with the information you've learned coming from today? This is an open-ended question, so to just populate some thoughts here. We're not going to go through and read them, but I just wanted to capture a bit of what people are thinking they could take from today. How they can, looks like some folks are wanting to make sure they share this information with others. Please do. You have the resources now, the workbook shared with someone else. If you want to build a study group from it, great. I love this. Manifest that I will do well. Love it. Thank you for that response there too. Wonderful. Study. Start studying now. Begin studying. Fabulous. Dig in and study. I love it, love it, love it. Wonderful. And hopefully this is just getting it started. Some of you might be surprised that you're more prepared than you know. Okay. So I'm going to put up this next Mentimeter while we also move into the questions portion, because this next Mentimeter here is asking, what questions does this leave you with? I want to pull it here too. That way, if there's more stuff we need to provide for resources, you all, I want to be able to do that. I want as many people to pass the exam as possible, because I want more people certified, I think more people should be certified. So I'll leave this up, let this populate in the background here. Chris, should we look at, are there any questions in the Q&A that we can answer while we're here?
Sure. I was trying to answer for the things I knew the answers. I typed out the answers because there were quite a few coming in, but a few that I wasn't sure about. One is when you were talking about breathing at the first, you mentioned CRM. Is that correct?
Oh, yes. Community resiliency model. Yes.
Okay. So somebody says, where can you get that resource? And I wasn't sure what that is. So it's community resiliency model.
Yes. You're saying when I was talking about breathing?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Sorry. Yes. Sorry about that, you all. I did just drop it in the chat. It's from the Trauma Resource Institute. They have a program called the Community Resiliency Model, or CRIM. Really, really wonderful tool and resource. I encourage folks to look into it. It's not something you're tested on, so I won't go into it, but it's been a powerful kind of resource tool for myself.
Great. Okay. And then somebody else says, I'm struggling to find the motivation after being in school for 6 years straight. I've had 2 years off, but it's hard to get back into that mindset. Any tips? And I know that's also for people who have also been out of school for a while. It can be really hard to get back into that mindset. Do you have any suggestions?
It really, really can be. For me, the best tip is the study group development, because it creates a sense of accountability. So get the study group and then actually plan to study. So for me, what we did when we did our study group, we got our study group approved by our supervisor. So we met during work hours. It wasn't after work. We got approved to meet during work hours, a set time, reoccurring on the clock. And I'd recommend you do something similar, personally.
Great, thank you. And I'm seeing somebody asked, would you please share the Brave Space agreements? I believe those are in the workbook, correct? That slide is in the
Yes, I
workbook.
believe it is in the workbook.
Yep,
Yes,
so
let
go
me-
ahead and download the workbook and you'll find it there. And I know, Rebecca, if you could put that workbook link in the chat one more time, that would be great.
It's actually not. I did remove that slide, but I'll share it with you
Oh.
guys.
Okay, sorry, that might have been from my mistake. And folks are putting questions in the chat and I'm having a hard time monitoring that. So, because there's
Okay.
other information in here. So if you have a question for, if you could use the Q&A, that would be great.
Okay.
And then, so here's another question for you from the Q&A. If you do not pass the exam the first time, is there a waiting period before you can retake? And also, does a retake cost the same?
The retake costs the same, and there is a waiting period. I believe it's 90 days.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then somebody says, I missed the answer to the following Menti quiz question. Prevention programs should be tailored to address risk specific to population or audience characteristics such as?
Mm-hmm.
That ringing a bell?
So yes, that was the one that was talking about social and economic factors.
Okay. And
Mm-hmm.
we will double check the answers to all those questions and we will send those in the email. Is that what? And so you all will get all of those. Does that sound good?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll do it that way. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Somebody asks, are the test rooms quiet and comfortable?
The one was in was,
Yeah,
but
it probably really depends, right?
yeah, it depends on the center. Yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I know a lot of the centers do tests for all kinds of things. It's not just for prevention or treatment. They do it for all kinds of things. So it probably really varies by the testing center, I would guess.
Mm-hmm.
So you might check around with your local where you would be. You might see if you can find somebody who's gone there. Somebody says, will the reference page links be forwarded in an email? Will the reference page links? They're in your workbook. I'm guessing
They
that
are in the workbook.
mentioning
Yes.
that. Yep. So
Mm-hmm.
look at
And
the
the links
last
are
page of
live.
your workbook. Are there any online study groups?
Ooh. Outside of the one Chris was doing.
Yeah, I mean, I know
Yeah.
at the Great Lakes PTTC, we are going to be starting a new round of funding, and our plan is to have another prevention learning collaborative that will focus on prevention certification. So if you're in the Great Lakes region, watch for information coming out on that. And if you aren't in our region, reach out to your own regional PTTC and see what they offer.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, a few more questions. Oh, and probably one or two more questions, and then we need to start doing the ending slides.
Okay.
Let's see. Some people are just putting information. If you could just put, if it's just information, put that in the chat, please, so that we can get the questions here. Where's the workbook? Look at the link in the chat that Rebecca's done. We will also include the link in the follow-up email. Are there any questions on the exam about the history of substance use and the evolution in the US? I don't know that we can answer that question. Do we know that?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure about it like from that perspective. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say be prepared for it because you never know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then can we do scenarios for the 4 Ps on the previous slides? For the like what's an
Mhm.
example of a scenario for the
Example.
4
Yeah.
Ps?
Okay.
Or maybe could you suggest a resource maybe to learn more about
Mhm.
4 Ps, Nicole?
Mhm. I can.
Okay, great. All right. And then I think we'll just have to Yep, the links to the online practice tests are in that resource that we provided, that the Great Lakes PTTC has created. I'll go ahead and share that, just so you can see what that looks like. And then are there resources that has the model and diagrams explained?
You said, do they have diagrams explained? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would say, yeah, definitely check into those resources.
Mhm.
And then somebody's asking about the correct answers. Again, we will send out the correct answers to the questions in the follow-up email. So we'll make sure you have that. All right, and with that, I'm going to go ahead and switch over to some ending slides because we've got to wrap this up. I can't believe this time's almost gone. It went so fast. Thank you so much, Nicole, for the great information you provided. Want to make sure we leave you, I want to give you some resources that can help you in your studying for the prevention certification exam. I know I usually start these ending slides with our upcoming events. Our current grant ends September 29th. Fortunately, the University of Wisconsin-Madison, where I work, we did get the next round of PTTC funding, which starts on September 30th. We are not allowed to do any work on that until September 30th, so we can't give you any information about upcoming events until after that time. So watch for our emails and our website for upcoming trainings starting in October. Few resources for you all. First of all, make sure that if you haven't checked it out already, there on Healthy Knowledge, there are over 53 courses on substance misuse prevention for free. You can earn your certificates to help out with getting all the training for your certification, and as well as gain a lot of knowledge. So if you haven't explored that yet, definitely go to healthyknowledge.org and explore that. You can set up a free account. Another option is on the Great Lakes PTTC website. We have what we call the Prevention Learning Portal. And if you click on these different tiles, you can learn about each of these topics. So like somebody was wanting to know more about the CSAP 6 strategies, click on here and I'll show you what the next screen looks like in a moment. Somebody asked about the Institute of Medicine, spectrum of mental, emotional, and behavioral interventions is the full, that's like the IOM. It was formerly called IOM. Click on there. And what happens when you click on each of these tiles is you get a page that has this. It has what is it, learn about it, and take action. And what we did is we took all the resources out there and tried to boil down to a few key resources in each of these areas. So if you're needing help learning about specific topics, feel free to go to that portal. And if there are topics that you're interested in and you don't see there, shoot me an email or Rebecca and let us know what you're interested in, because we continually add more pages over time. Another resource I wanted to make sure you all know about, we didn't talk much about this, and it's not perhaps a specific test question, but really important for prevention specialists to know, is what strategies don't work. What does research show is not effective and in some cases can be harmful? So we just completed a lit review on this topic. So highly recommend that you read through this. We tried to make it very readable, pretty quick to get through, but with the key information that is needed. So hopefully that will be helpful to you all. And if you aren't already, we'd love to have you follow us on LinkedIn or Facebook. If you do social media, this is where we put information up every day of the latest information that comes into us to be able to share out to you right away. So invite you to join us on social media if that interests you. And last but not least, if you can, please take a few minutes to complete the evaluation form that you'll be redirected to once this webinar is closed out. That helps us in terms of our future planning. And as I always say, please know that information doesn't go into a black hole. I read every comment that comes through there. So please let us know what worked for you. Anything that we could have done differently that would have worked better for you, that would be really helpful. And with that, one last huge thank you to Nicole. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. You're fantastic. Really
So much fun,
appreciate you.
Chris.
All right, and I appreciate everybody's active involvement. What a great group of folks that were just we're right in there engaged. Thank you to all of you who participated today. And one last thank you to Rebecca, who faithfully is in the background every time. She's done all the work to help set this up, putting it on, and then does the follow-up. So thank you also to Rebecca. With that, everybody have a fantastic rest of your day. Take care, everyone.